Hey, what's up, everyone? Cindy Harvey here of cindyharveyonline.com. And a big welcome to you to this week's edition of Career Q&A. Got another spicy hot topic for you this week. And I'm actually really excited to talk about this because it is a topic that you either need now because you're in the situation, or you will definitely be in the situation at some point in the future, and having this insight, this knowledge now will only help to make that transition that much smoother when you get into the situation down the line. So if you're wondering what the heck I'm talking about, let me fill you in. So today's topic is 3 shifts, 3 steps that you need to take in order to shift your professional brand from being a job seeker's brand to being a brand of a new employee. All right. So when you are going through your job search, your brand is structured and set up in one particular way. But when you get into the role, you sign the offer letter and you start on day one. This actually does start on day one. Your brand as a new employee needs to shift a little bit. There's some overlap between job seeker and new employee, but once you get into the company and you're part of the team, you're part of the organization, there are some other considerations that you need to have in mind so that you set yourself up for success right from the beginning, right from day one when you start. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. I'm going to walk you through the steps that you need to take to make that shift smooth, easy, and seamless. All right, so let me start off by just painting the picture for you. So imagine that you did it. You landed the job that you want, you've been working towards, you've been out on interviews, networking, LinkedIning, you've been applying for jobs, and you go through that whole process and you finally get the offer letter. It has the salary that you want. You're excited about the work that you'll be doing. You've got a great connection and rapport with the person that you'll be reporting to. You landed the job that you want. And you get in there on day one. You're super excited to start doing this work that you love, to be able to make such an impact through your work as a new employee, as a new hire, a new member of the team. And a big part of that is being able to create a memorable first impression. And there's lots of different people that I'm sure you'll be meeting as you start off on this new journey and this new role. You've got a new boss, you've got new team members, you may have new direct reports, you've got other colleagues and stakeholders, as we'd like to say in the corporate world, that are important for you to build relationships with and get to know. So from this point in your journey, like one of the most important steps that you can take right from the beginning to start to create the change and start to build that positive impression that you want to have is to begin to transition your brand from that of a job seeker to that of a new employee. Now, before I get too far into this topic, let's just take a quick pause and get in sync on what professional branding really is all about, just to make sure we're thinking about the same thing in the same way. Now, as you may have heard me talk about before, when I talk about professional branding, that really is all about being super clear on who you are. And that encompasses the things that you're really good at doing, the value that you bring to the table, the results you have created that you will create going forward, and also your personal values. Like that is also part of your brand. And so all of those different pieces combined form the brand. And I also always like to think about it as being your reputation. What do people think about you and say about you when you're not in the room? All of that mixed together in the pot is what I define as your professional brand. And as you're going through the interview process, typically we put our best foot forward as we're trying to impress and we're trying to get the job and we want to get hired. So the best qualities you have, those are the ones that you let shine during the interview process. And that is what actually got you the job. That's what impressed the hiring manager. That's what impressed the other folks that you would have interviewed with. And it is that version of you, the one that you brought to the interview process, that your manager really got drawn to, that the manager then used to sell you internally, maybe to his or her manager, as the person that they wanted to bring on board. That is what they want to see more of. That is what they bought into. That is what they fell in love with. And that is what helped them to make the decision that, yes, you are the person that they want to have on their team. So all of that is really important to keep in mind, that what you brought to that interview process is important. That's your foundation. And as you move into this role of new hire, new employee, what you really need to do is to keep that ball rolling and keep bringing that best version of you that you had and that you showed in the interview process, and allow that to shine in a refined kind of way, which we'll talk about in a second, but allow that to shine as your version of you as a new employee. So hopefully all of that makes sense. Now let's get into the 3 steps that will help you to make this transition really smooth and seamless. So I'll highlight the 3 steps and then I'll take you through each one of them in a little bit more detail. So the first one is you're going to refresh your brand, and I'll talk about that one first in just a second. The second step, if you want to write these down, second step is you want to be really deliberate and intentional about how you show up. You often hear me talk about how you show up when I'm talking about your professional brand and how you build it and how you maintain it. So being intentional and deliberate about how you do that is the important second step. And then the third step is you want to start being visible, and you want to be able to let people see you and experience you and get to know you as well as you're making your way through. I'd say at least the first 90 days, and beyond that I think is smart, but at minimum the first 90 days of your time in this new role. All right. And so let's dive into each of these in a little bit more detail. So as I said, first step is that you want to do a little refresh of your brand. And the way that you do this is, first of all, you're going to start off by, just like I mentioned earlier, is just start off by thinking about what did you do to land the role in the first place, thinking about your interview process, your job search process. And as we typically would normally do, we put a lot of care and effort and thought into how we show up during the interview process. You probably, especially if you worked with me, you probably took some time out to define that brand as a candidate, as a job seeker. You also would have taken some time to map out what your accomplishments have been. What did you do in the past that would be a good match for the role that you're applying for and interviewing for? You'd likely practice your interviews and practice talking about those accomplishments and those results in interviews. You most certainly did some work on your resume and got that all shiny and new and ready to support you in the job search process. With that, you probably also did some work on your LinkedIn profile, and then you want to look your best as well. So I'm sure you did whatever you needed to do to bring your A game to that job search and that interview process. So you put a lot of effort and care into just getting the job. And all of this happens because you want to be able to take your best self to that stage. And that is exactly the same mindset that you want to carry forward into your first 90 days as a new employee in this new job and beyond that 90-day period. The way that you do that is you start off by just asking yourself this question. Now that I'm here, and now that I know about the culture of this organization, I've met my boss, and I know myself, how am I going to show up? That is the question that you need to ask yourself. And keeping in mind, like I said, that you have more information now, that you've gone through the interview process about your boss, about the company, about the industry, about the team, etc. Given all of that, given what you know about yourself, how do you want to show up? And I really want to encourage you to just put pen to paper, write your answers down. And what this does is it allows you to stay in alignment with who you are and bring that into alignment with your status as a new employee now. All right. And it's sometimes it's easy to get caught up in office politics and water cooler gossip and, not the not so great side of corporate life, but you can always make a different choice and make it your intention really to rise above some of that stuff that happens, in an office environment. So as an example, if your brand is not to be a chit chat person, not to be a gossiper, then make the decision, again, intentionally not to gossip. If your brand is to be really intentional about building strong relationships with your team or with other stakeholders that you need to work with on a regular basis, then place your focus on adding value to those relationships, investing and growing those relationships, and getting to know people in a way that will just help to make doing the work that much easier. And I think the key thing to keep in mind here is that you get to choose. You get to choose what you're known for, and you get to choose how you show up. All right, so that's step number one. So let's move on to step number two, which is being deliberate and intentional about how you show up. So the key words here are intentional and deliberate. And this is all about being that with your choices so that you're able to stay really focused and really on point and aligned with your new employee brand that you're building and developing and refining. And when you're able to do that, this is what will get your work notice and also bring that satisfaction and that fulfillment and that purpose that you're likely looking for out of your career. Now, I also want to say that it's important to keep in mind that you don't have to be perfect. You don't have to, try to never make a mistake, because that's just not real. And I remember had a client not too long ago where this idea of perfection came up when she started a new role, and she was just worried about her reputation, and she almost felt like she had to be someone other than who she actually was. And there was no room for error in that situation. And as we worked together in the coaching process, she started to see that really being her true self was exactly what she needed to do to get to her goals, to build those relationships, and to be able to make the impact. So how this played out for her was that when she made a mistake, naturally her way of dealing with it in, quote unquote, real life is that she would just say, hey, I made a mistake. And she was able to bring that side of herself into her corporate life and create that alignment. And she would just own up to any mistakes that she had made. She would shift gears, course correct. And that became the foundation for the type of brand that she wanted to have as a new employee. And that brand for her was based on being authentic, being honest, and having a high degree of integrity. You want to just be super clear on what that brand looks like for you and make sure that you're making decisions and choices on a regular basis that help to bring that to life. All right, let's look at step number 3, which is about being visible. Now, being visible does not mean never messing up. We are human, so we will make mistakes, but it is about understanding who you are and how you want to handle those mistakes that you made. So let people see who you are. And what tends to happen is that we are drawn to people that we feel are being genuine. And that really is the most aligned way to build your brand in a lasting way. And people will be drawn to you and to want to hear what you have to say. So see every interaction that you have in the workplace in this new role as an opportunity to develop trust, to build rapport, and again, to invest in those relationships. Because at the end of the day, work gets done through people. I say that all the time. Work doesn't just happen by itself. It gets done through people. So making that investment, honest and genuine investment in those relationships will always serve you really, really well. So one of the most meaningful pieces of advice that I give to clients as they're starting their new role is sometimes you just have to go slow so that you can go fast, especially in the first 90 days. Take your time in the beginning, be intentional, focus on building real connections, observe, kind of lean back a little bit, observe watch, learn how things work, rather than just jumping in and starting to push all the buttons right away and kind of flex your elbows. That won't win you any favors. All right, so taking this kind of intentional approach, this will help you to build the foundation of trust that you really need to be able to accomplish things quickly once you've developed that solid reputation in the company. And I know you have a million ideas. You're a smart woman. You're driven. You want to see the results. But I just want to encourage you as you're starting your new role, just be super, super patient. And by letting your brand shine early on in a genuine, authentic kind of way, what you're really doing is building the road and laying the foundation that will allow you to create those results and sprint and have the massive impact that you know you can in the months to come and in the years to come. And it will really, really set you up for success over the long term. So keep those 3 steps in mind and you'll be ahead of the game before you even start. So here's what I'd love to do at this point. I'd love to hear what you think. Which one of these 3 steps do you think that you will either need to focus on now if you're starting a new role, or which one do you think you would put the most emphasis on when you start your new role in the future? I want to hear what you think, so leave a comment below. And as always, let's keep the conversation going. And if you found this episode, you found these 3 steps helpful at all, what I'd love for you to do is to share this message with at least one person today. I always say we got to look out for each other. We need each other to move forward and to advance. We individually have a responsibility to help each other, especially as women, to rise up. And by sharing this episode, sharing this message with someone else, you'll be doing your part. And the last thing before I wrap things up for this week is I want to invite you once again to grab your copy of my new guide for high achieving career women, badass career women. It's called the Get Promoted Playbook, and it is completely free. In this guide, I'm giving you a summary of all 10 of the habits that I had to unlearn in order to move my own career forward. And these were ways that I was getting in my own way and blocking my own success. So I've summarized all 10 of those habits, things that I've learned in hindsight, and I want to be able to share them with you to help move you forward even faster. So to grab your copy, all you need to do is go to cindyharveyonline.com/playbook. Just enter your name and email address and it'll get sent right to your inbox. All right, my friends, that's it for now. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode, and I look forward to talking to you next time.